Welcome to the Tutors of Life podcast, where we research life so you don't have to. Episode 301. This is your host, Shaun Tutor.
And this is Sam. This is a Tutor episode where we try to teach you something new.
Today we're probably going to teach you some shit.
Probably, actually.
Most people probably aren't going to know most of this shit. Mm-hmm. Alrighty, gang. We're going to talk about what Memorial Day actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So Memorial Day did not start as Memorial Day. It originally was known as Decoration Day. Decoration Day, it was named Decoration Day because they would decorate fallen soldiers' graves with flowers. And so in 1868, on May 30th, the first Decoration Day was recognized. And everybody went about decorating fallen soldiers' graves.
Mm-hmm.
And it was John A. Logan. I think he was the commander-in-chief for the Grand Army of the Republic. He's the one that proclaimed it the holiday to honor the fallen Union soldiers in the American Civil War.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Who had died in the war.
Yeah, sorry. Fallen, who had died.
Did you say who had fallen?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Fallen Union soldiers.
Yep, sorry.
No, you're good. And so he did that in 1868. However, it was not adopted by all Union states until 1890.
Mm-hmm.
And Union states was mostly the northern states. I think the Union states made up like 23 states or 27, something like that. The northern states that fought against the southern states in the American Civil War. So 1890 is when it was adopted by all Union states. And then it did not become a federal holiday until 1971.
Mm-hmm.
1971 is when it switched from being May 30th
mm-hmm.
and became the first Monday of May.
The last Monday of May.
Thank you. The last Monday of May. And that is observed as the last Monday of May. That happened on 1971. And 1971 is when it became a nationally recognized holiday.
Mm-hmm.
Federally recognized holiday.
And they made it on Monday so then we could have a 3-day weekend.
They made it on... So they made Decoration Day a day to mourn the losses, and I mean really just recognize and think about what people have sacrificed
mm-hmm.
so we could live in the world we live in,
mm-hmm.
the nation we live in. And we got rid of it being on May 30th so that we could have a 3-day weekend.
Mm-hmm. It said there was 4 different holidays that they switched to Mondays that same year for 3-day weekends.
Fuck 1971.
So my guess is it's probably Martin Luther King Jr. Day, President's Day, and Labor Day would be the other 3.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Anyways.
So Decoration Day, it was originally for the American Civil War
mm-hmm.
soldiers who had died in war, but it became a day of remembrance for all U.S. military who have fought and died in service during the World Wars
mm-hmm.
and after the World Wars.
Yeah.
So that time it became, more of a Memorial Day style, where they were mourning more than just the American Civil War, and now it's for any fallen soldier throughout the nation who's fought and died in battle.
And there are 2 other days we celebrate those who have served as well. So there's the Armed Forces Day, which is earlier in May.
And that Armed Forces Day is for everybody currently serving in the military.
Yep. And then the last one is Veterans Day on November 11th.
Mm-hmm.
So that honors those who have served.
Right. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So we got the current, the past, and the fallen.
Yes. Right. Nicely said. So yeah, what's Memorial Day mean now, right? So what it Memorial Day, Decoration Day used to be the main focus was to mourn fallen soldiers.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's considered the first unofficial day of summer.
Yeah.
That's Memorial Day.
Yep.
Important.
So important.
Okay. What else we got?
I mean, there's parades. We got parades going now.
Parades, yep. The Indy 500.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want me to talk about that real quick?
Yeah.
So the Indy 500 is famously on Memorial Day. And it has been for a while. I think this says 1911. And in 1913, an Indiana veteran complained that younger people born since the war had a tendency to forget the purpose of Memorial Day and make it a day for games, races, and revelry instead of a day of memory and tears.
Yep.
So he was trying to oppose the Indy 500 being on Memorial Day because we should be mourning, not racing.
100%.
Yeah. Sadly, it was rejected by the legislation, so they were still able to hold. They still are holding the race on Memorial Day.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at some of the stuff, like what is Memorial Day? Mm-hmm. One of the things is like Memorial Day is a day off of work. It's the start of summer, and it's a time for celebration. And then it goes into, but it's also to mourn those and honor those who have died in the military service. Mm-hmm. It's like, dog, that
should be the main.
That should be like what we really care about. Mm-hmm. And dude, if you think about everyone's getting together, celebrating Memorial Day, having fun, throwing a party, all that shit, when it should be to honor those who have fallen. Mm-hmm. That's it. You should be family, friends, who have fallen, visiting their grave, decorating their grave, and really remembering those mm-hmm. who have given everything for you to be able to be sitting in the chair you're sitting in right now. Mm-hmm. For you to be in the position. Millions of people have given their lives so you can be fucking playing with your dick today. Mm-hmm. Or riding around on a boat. Fucking off.
It's something like to really think about because, I mean, it originally started after the Civil War. So, I mean, like, there's a whole population that should be thankful because the slaves were freed.
Yeah, slaves. Black people, you should be fucking going to every goddamn grave today.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that was one war that we should be very thankful for. The World Wars. I know, like, World War II, we weren't really supposed to be involved in. But thankfully we did, because that is a whole nother group of population that has been able to survive now.
Right.
Because of that war.
Right. So, yeah, Jews, go fucking thank some people.
Mm-hmm. I know, obviously, like, there are tons of other wars that were very unnecessary or whatever, but we still do have to remember, like, people fought for what they thought was right.
People fought and served their country for what at the time they thought was right or what the government told them was true. A lot of it turns out to be false in today's world, and it's becoming more and more relevant that the level of corruption mm-hmm. in the government, and it even goes to show the level of corruption and how much they want you to forget now, right?
Yeah.
They are the ones that passed this so that instead of us remembering and mourning the losses, we get a fucking 3-day weekend. Mm-hmm. It's the start of summer, and it's a time for celebration, to mm-hmm. party. Okay. They literally, in 1971, they decided to start masking the true meaning behind this day. Mm-hmm. And so we really need to think. And, dude, like Martin Luther King Day. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a lot of people aren't even thinking about Martin Luther King. They're thinking it's a 3-day weekend. Mm-hmm. They're all on a long weekend, dude. These fucking holidays should not be on a Monday. No. They should be middle of the week. That
it should be a disruption.
On a certain day.
It should be a disruption in the work week for us to take time to recognize.
Absolutely.
Spain, their Memorial Day is May 1st.
Crazy.
Yeah. So it was Very. I mean, it was kind of inconvenient for us to be there. Or Spain and Portugal. So like, some European countries, their Memorial Day is May 1st. Or no, Labor Day.
Labor Day's May 1st. Something was April 25th.
Oh, yeah, in Portugal, April 25th is the day that they were freed from communism. And they take those days very, very seriously. And maybe it's because it is so fresh in their memories still.
Yeah, because, yeah.
I mean, the one was only 50 years ago, I think. They just celebrated
Right.
the 50th anniversary or something.
Yep.
So, like, and they legitimately, like, everything's closed pretty much. Some places were open, but I think they have a lot more, like, immigrants that work there. So they have all the immigrants work and not, like, the born Portuguese.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, they take their holidays very, very seriously.
And it wasn't just about, like,
Going and partying
and all that shit. It was about, like, hey, motherfuckers, we're free.
Like, reflecting.
Yeah.
So all over, in, like, Porto especially, there was graffiti everywhere. That was, like, remember April 25th or something. And it's, like, young kids doing this graffiti because I think they do get to hear firsthand from their parents, like, what life was like in communism.
Yep.
So, yeah, our country has done a disservice to us by teaching us not the true values of Memorial Day.
Right. Well, yeah, and the true values of a lot of holidays we have.
Yeah. Do you mind if I talk about the poppy?
Go for it.
So if you guys have, I saw them out actually outside of Walmart the other day. You may notice veterans, they will sell these little red flowers called remembrance poppies. And it's an artificial flower worn in some countries to commemorate their military personnel who died in war. So it's not just the U.S. that has adopted this. It's a lot of countries. Remembrance poppies are produced by veterans associations, which exchange the poppies for charitable donations used to give financial, social, and emotional support to members and veterans of the armed forces. And the poppy came up because of a war poem called In Flanders Fields. And in the first line, it talks about the poppy fields that were growing next to the Civil War graves in Flanders. So I think it was written in 1915, and then in 1920, it was adopted as the official remembrance flower.
Very cool.
Yep. So if you go to like Walmart or something and see someone selling a poppy, do know that your money is going towards a good cause.
That's cool.
But yeah, I do think it's cool. It did start here, and then a lot of places now have adopted the poppy for their own fallen soldiers as well.
Very cool. Very cool.
So yeah, that's about the poppy. If anybody was curious what the poppy was.
Makes sense. Nice. Yeah. What else you got about Memorial Day?
I don't know. It's just it is kind of sad to like think about just how much like we forget about all of the other things. It was kind of interesting. We just watched the roast of Tom Brady, and Tom Brady brought up a 9/11 joke.
It's pretty funny.
It was pretty funny. Yeah, I have to admit it was very funny. But if we think about it, that was only 23 years ago, going to be 23 years ago. And there was a big war off of it. And us as a country had come together because of 9/11.
Right.
Many people fled to New York to help as many people as they could. And there was a lot of fallen soldiers from that war. And I feel like 9/11 is such a big day that we remember, but we just don't remember the whole collective of all the other wars. Probably because they, one, don't teach us very well of it. And two, they, I don't know, don't want us to remember, I guess.
Well, they do these things for their own, like, to get out of, like, a get out of jail free card for them. I mean, 9/11, which has came out to be a CIA op.
Yeah.
That the U.S. did on itself, which doesn't get talked about. You know, it's like they did that to cover up what they were doing back then, which was $2 trillion went missing.
Yeah.
And
all the files for it were happened to be in the Trade Center and the part of the Pentagon that got destroyed.
Right.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah. And so the next day, all it was a war on terror, and us going to war with Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan. when it was the own U.S. government that did it to itself, which is dope. But, the thing is, I think because we don't actually take the time as a population to sit and think about what's actually going on. All we do is sit over here and react. That's all that we end up doing is reacting. Where if we actually didn't take, I think this can all be boiled down to taking the easy route.
Yeah.
Living a blissful life, having an easy life, path of least resistance. We're not staying like occupied, never being bored. We don't think about things anymore. And so on days like today, like Memorial Day, when you should be remembering and observing those who have fallen, instead you're partying or recovering from a hangover or whatever. And you're not thinking, and this goes for everything. When all we're doing is like reacting to what we see because we're living in our own little world and not actually paying attention to the bigger picture and looking into things and being naive and allowing ourselves to be easily manipulated, time again and time again, one after another, we get into these stupid fucking conflicts that aren't real, that have been propagated by our own U.S. government or governments or the World Economic Forum or whatever, because we can't open our fucking eyes as a country and do something about it.
And do you want to know why they start these? To get rid of the strong, young, hardworking men in our population. Because
every generation has a war.
So you got to think about all the young lives we lost in the Middle East. And,
bro.
And obviously, it's not some weak doughboy men that are going to war. It's all of the tough motherfuckers that have the balls to go do that shit.
Right.
And who would be the most likely population to overthrow the country? That population.
Strong testosterone-filled men.
Yep.
That's it.
So the best way to control the population is send them off to war and kill them.
Yep. And then keep the rest of us weak and scared.
Yeah. So really do, start learning about some of these wars and dig deep in them too, because like Shaun said, you can find some very interesting things of if we should have been in these wars or not. What was the one that we really shouldn't have been a part of? Not Vietnam. Was it Vietnam?
I think it was Vietnam. Yeah. Well, the most one we shouldn't have been a part of at all was Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, because we made it up.
Yeah.
And so that really shouldn't have been a fucking thing.
I just remember there was one in like the 70s and 80s that's really controversial. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so really start learning about it, because thinking back on it, I don't remember anything about learning about wars in school.
You did a little. We did a little bit. We learned about some wars and shit, but we didn't.
Not to the extent we should have.
Learn the truths. Yeah.
I just feel like we just covered the tiny surface of them, and the more books I read about World War II and everything, like, one, I'm just like, how the fuck could those people do that to people?
It's wild.
But then the more I read, the more I learn, like, Hitler was blackmailing a whole bunch of people, or like if you were trying to resist, they'd be like, well, come and kill your whole family. Or, oh, you're starved? Well, come be a soldier and then I'll feed you and your family. So, like...
Right, yeah.
A lot of those people were put in really hard situations that they were like, if, like, I have to survive and my family has to survive, so we'll do what we have to do to survive.
And do you know how Hitler became in power?
By blackmailing people?
Hitler became in power because during the 1930s, Germany and the Weimar Republic...
yes.
The degradation of society became so real. Prostitution of moms, daughters, everything. There was it's what happens anytime a civilization becomes too far woke, and that gender becomes fluid, and sexualization of like kids, women, men, everything becomes okay, and part of society. And
he just better like promised them a better life, wasn't it?
Yeah, so they got so far away from like values, having like good family values, and became such a degraded society in the 1930s that they wanted somebody to come in and stop it all. And what happened was Hitler was the guy that came in and said, I'm going to put an end to this. Hitler was the one that started burning the books that back then were the books of the books with like genitals in it and talking about sex of youth and prostitution and all that shit. And so he was destroying books that were degrading society values, right? And so because of how far left it got, because of how far socialist it got, someone from the far right came and stepped in and took over, and that's how you get fascism.
And they're probably so desperate.
They were so desperate.
Yeah.
Because they were at that point, you're getting so close to socialism and communism that you're like, we need someone to come in and radically stop this. Well, that just happened to be a fascist.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like controversy and like conspiracy out there about that they put Hitler in as a world, like the World Economic Forum, they placed Hitler to do these things, and essentially what it was they helped him get in, win, and all that, and then their ideology was spread. That's one of them. The other conspiracy is Hitler was so sick of like the people in power at top of the World Economic Forum and degrading society, that he came in and wanted to kill all the Jews because they were Jewish. And so that's where like all the killing of all the Jews became a thing, is because a lot of the people, and today a lot of the people on that, like the top people that run civilization and whatever,
are still Jewish.
Are a lot of Jews, are a lot of Jewish people, and that's where like anti-Semitism is so big today and whatever. And but anyways, that's one of the theories, is that they were tearing down society so much that Hitler's like, fuck Jews, because he just related the people at the top being Jewish to all Jews and said, get rid of them all. And that's another conspiracy, which is interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, on this lovely Memorial Day, read up about some wars. Go to a cemetery if you know of someone who lost their life in a war.
Yep.
And maybe mourn a little bit.
Don't
just think about drinking and partying and having a barbecue with your family.
Right.
Remember those that have fallen for us to be where we are today.
And try to do things to prevent more people from falling that don't need to for unnecessary reasons.
Do remember, some of the first group of people that Hitler killed were the prostitutes, the people that didn't have jobs.
Yep.
Even if they weren't Jewish, they got lined up just with the Jews.
Oh yeah, people that didn't contribute to society.
So there you go. That's what we got for you today.
Cool, gang. Hope you learned something. If you didn't learn something, I'd be impressed. And go ahead.
Keep learning.
Keep learning. Keep your eyes open. Pay attention to things. Dig beneath the surface.
Listen to the Real AF podcast.
Listen to Andy Frisella Real AF podcast. That's how I heard about the Weimar Republic for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Andy talks about that quite a bit.
Interesting.
So yeah, check out that shit, guys. And once you start learning some more and doing some research, you can go
deep.
You can go deep, and you can find out a lot of shit you don't want to find out. And Andy Frisella and DJ, man, they have called almost everything verbatim since January of 2020.
I think before then.
Yeah, they've been on their shit calling this all the whole time, and have missed only twice on kind of smaller things. So yeah, go check out Real AF. It's beautiful.
I'd love to just pick a random episode from like 2019 and listen to it and just to see what they say and then be like, fuck.
Oh, bro, dude, I have, because I'll go back and listen to them, and I listen to them, I'm like, damn, dude, this has aged so well.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll play clips. Like one episode, they're like, hey, remember when we said this? And they played like 7 clips of them talking about it throughout the last year and a half.
That's wild.
Dang. Anyways, gang, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.